This is a session called Specialized Technical Writing Team to provide documentation for line developers, presented by two of us. Hello, everybody. I will be covering the first part of the session. I am Yoshiko Horikoshi, a technical writer. I used to be an infrastructure engineer at web design company, and I authored several tech docs, and that led me to become a technical writer at Line since 2020. Today, I'd like to share with you what technical writers do. Next, Roman. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I am Roman, a front-end engineer. I will be doing the second part of this session. I'm responsible for line developer sites. I was born in Germany. I came to Japan 6 years ago. I like Vue.js and I love YouTube. Today, I'd like to talk about the role of an engineer in the technical writing team. Thank you. Now, let me give you the structure of this session, which is 40 minutes. I will talk about what technical writer is and the benefits of having technical writers in your company in the first half. And then in the second half, Roman will talk about the roles of an engineer in the technical writing team. After both of us are done, I will come back to do a wrap-up of this entire session. So, Roman, we'll see you later. Now let me start the first half of this session about technical writers. I would like to start off with a question to you. Do you know what a technical writer is? Over the past 1 year, I think this profession has gained some awareness, so you may say, yes. You may say, kind of, I've heard of it, but I would presume most of you would say, technical what? I will be covering the days of technical writers, but I'd like to start by talking about what difference technical writers make in technical documents. What does a technical writer do? Let's compare the two roles, one with technical writers, the other without. This is a document about an API written by a line engineer. And this comes from the internal wiki of Line. Reach menu alias creating API and delete alias API I explained, with minimum requirements for request headers, endpoint path. When you are successful, 200 is returned and 400 is returned when fails. So this is a document without technical writers' involvement. When technical writers are involved, what will happen to this document? Well, this doc starts looking like this. On the left, this is an API reference for API to create rich menu alias. How you can make rich menu alias by triggering this API. And preparation is also described. You have to have rich menus and images uploaded if you want to make rich menu alias. Examples of requests and error responses are also added to make this document more first-time reader friendly. Now, on the right, this is an API reference for deleting rich menu alias. You may wonder, why do you have to delete rich menu alias, which you had earlier created? Well, actually, there is a maximum of rich menu alias that you can have. That is 1,000. If you hit the ceiling, you cannot make any more rich menu alias, therefore, the older ones have to be deleted. Such explanation is also given. In the world where technical writers are, how to use API and API references, as well as what you can do with combining APIs can also be explained. Creating API and deleting API of rich menu alias will not give you full understanding of what you can do with them. But in this document, using rich menu alias, you can switch multiple rich menus just like you switch between tabs. With illustrations, it is obvious what you can do. So that's the difference between the two roles. Let me now talk about what is the role of a technical writer. Technical writers in general have a role of writing instruction manuals. When you buy a washing machine or a refrigerator, they come with instruction manuals which tells you which button to push to do your laundry and which settings to turn on to reduce temperature of the fridge. Line does not make washing machines or refrigerators. So what do we do as technical writers? Technical writers at Line writes documents for external developers. Tech docs for external developers? What are they? You might have seen the screen. For example, at e-commerce site or member-only site, you can log in using your credentials like email address and password. But you can also use your Line, Facebook, or Google account to log in. If you want to implement this Line login button to your website, you might wonder how you can do that. So, for those developers, Line's technical writers make documents of Line APIs and their implementations and offer them on Line Developer Site on left and Clover Developer Center Beta on the right. We have Line Technical Writing dedicated team responsible for tech docs for Line APIs. The team has 6 technical writers, including myself, and 1 engineer, Roman, who will be talking to you later. So let's talk about how these 7 members work in writing Line API documents. How are the Line API docs written? Basically, documents are written both in Japanese and in English simultaneously and released at the same time. Some documents are also offered in Chinese for Taiwanese developers. When we write these documents, we receive input about the functions from the developers, sometimes in a 30-minute meetings, or sometimes in the form of internal wiki with specifications which we have to read on our own. If the first writer to draft the document is good at Japanese, Japanese document comes first and translated into English, and vice versa. In either case, we do not outsource translation. We do writing and translation within the team. So, when we rewrite these documents, we use VsCode to write docs in Markdown. And this is the actual script. You see some blue dotted lines or yellow dotted lines, which are indications from the tools of proofreading like Veil and TextLint. According to predefined rules, such tools point out grammatical errors and suggest better writing and correct service names, and etc., etc. After a document is written, it is run on the local environment to check how it looks. And then we make improvement as to adding diagrams and using dot indexes to refine the document. Upon completion, we push it to GitHub and generate pull request. When pull request is created, what happens is automatic checks run on build, disabled links, and automated proofreading. On the left is the result of veil check, the proofreading check. The wrong part is indicated by red fonts. Markdown syntax is checked by build check. And the changes on the existing page can result in disabled links, and link checks can find that. If there are any problems, we can find them all in this stage. When everything is okay, it becomes all green. The sandbox is also created on each Git branch. The document is reviewed within the team, but also we ask the product head as well as the developers to give us feedback after checking in the sandbox. If they are not satisfied with the descriptions, they can give us comments on pull requests, so we can make improvement and send it again for the checking in the sandbox. When the document is ready to be launched, it's merged into masters. CI/CD tools run automatically, and the doc is released into production. So there is this production environment which you can see, and behind that we have RC, beta, and sandbox environment which are for checking, and then we have local environment at hand. In all those environments, docs are checked before being released to production. When doc is released, we all rejoice. So, how frequently do we release documents? I counted the release counts this year and found we were releasing 25 times a month. We work around 20 days every month, so we are releasing 1.25 times each day to improve documents. So this year, the count was 25. Last year, it was 19. So it seems we are improving our speed in improving the documents. So this is how we write and improve our documents daily. Now I would like to share with you the benefits of having technical writers or a technical writing team within your organization. The benefits of having a technical writing team. When technical writers create documents quality improves. Not only explanation about specifications, the document can tell you how to use APIs and where the pitfalls are. Anything that developers would like to know. Day in and day out, we strive to make tech docs more readable. We also work with support team, which receive inquiries from developers. The areas of inquiries focus on the areas of non-readability, so we make improvements. Because we are a dedicated team, we can do that. Everyone knows what documents are. They are very important. We want the products to be used by developers. Then product quality is important, and at the same time, readable documents are equally important. Even though you understand the importance of it, you'd put priority to development, and documents are left behind. If you ask developers to write documents, developing and writing capabilities are separate and different. You cannot expect all the developers to like writing or be good at it. And if a developer developed the function, he knows or she knows the function too well, making it difficult for them to write documents for people who do not know anything about it. Having technical writers, developers can focus in developing, and the readers will receive the direct benefit of readable documents. Now let me move on to the next topic, which is who is suited to become a technical writer. At Line, there are multiple skills necessary for technical writers. The most important is technical skills to understand the specifications. This is a must-have skill. The next is writing skills to write readable docs. And lastly, a nice-to-have skill is reading and writing skills in Japanese and English. You don't have to be able to write both languages just like natives would, but at least you have to have a proficiency in your second language to understand the translated version means the same thing as your Japanese version. And you have to have the skill of translating English document into Japanese. And out of those three skills, the most important is the technical skills to understand specifications. Why? Because in order to write readable document for a specific product, you have to understand the technologies behind that. For example, if you want to write a document about line login, you have to understand the OAuth 2.0 behind it. And also, if you want to write about messaging API, which enables message to be sent by bot in line, and if you want to write a document about flex message inside, you have to understand CSS Flexbox technology behind it. Without understanding the technologies, your document may end up being pretty but not understandable. Line has many products. So, if you want to be a technical writer at Line, you have to proactively learn about technologies behind those products. So, if you find it a lot of fun to learn about technologies while liking to write, then you're suitable to become a technical writer at Line. Now, you may now feel like having technical writers in your organizations or having a technical writing team. Many IT companies are building technical writing teams and hunting for technical writers. And we receive inquiries from such companies who want to know how we are doing at Line. But IT technical writing is a new profession. You don't find too many of them out there, and especially those technical writers with technical skills. If that's the case for you, probably you should seek one from out of your developers inside your company rather than outside, because some developers like to write, some contribute tech docs, and write technical blogs. So you might want to ask them to become technical writer. So this is the end of the first part. Roman will now tell you what roles an engineer plays in such technical writing team.
Now I'd like to talk about this from the engineer's point of view. I think there are a lot of reasons why you should have a technical writing team. And now I'd like to talk about why you should assign an engineer to the technical writing team. This is the agenda. I am going to talk about why you should have an engineer on your technical writing team and how I support the work of writers on a daily basis as an engineer. So, let's talk about why you should assign an engineer. It's just like you talked about earlier, writing is not easy. There is a lot of content that needs to be written, and I think there is a reason why you need a professional to make sure that the writing is easy to understand. Of course, documentation that is easy to understand from reader's point of view and documentation that is written in a way that is easy to understand is the most important thing. But that's not everything from reader's point of view. I'd like to talk a little bit more about UX from the perspective of the user reading the documentation. As you can imagine, no matter how clear the document is, if the document is on a website that is difficult to use, the reader will not be satisfied. So, I think it is important to have a website that is not only too easy to understand but also easy to use. The image is as follows. Please go to the Line Developer site and check if the site is easy to use or not. In order to make the site easy to use, I have provided a variety of functions. First of all, the Line Developer site has been developed with VuePress, and by using VuePress, the pages are crisp and fast. We support multiple languages. And this is full text search. It has a lot of contents and easy to use. Ease of search is also important, and we provide full text search. Here we are using Elasticsearch. And next is feedback form. This is where people who read the documentation can actually write and send in their comments. We will actually read the feedback and use it to improve the site. This is the reference section for the messaging API, which also provides original UI such as the tab UI in the code sample and the API playground, which allows you to try out some of the messaging UI features, although it is not shown here. We also deliver news on a daily basis. News also needs to be easy to find, so we provide a feature like this to filter by tags. Yes, now I'd like to go back to the topic of professional technical writers again. First of all, let's imagine a slightly different situation. Let's say you go to an Italian restaurant. You would naturally expect to find pizza, pasta, and other Italian dishes. So there are Italian chefs who are experts in making these dishes. So, of course, they serve Italian food, but you can't order sushi. Can you? This is a different specialty, isn't it? Actually, it's the same for technical writers. Technical writers are experts in writing. You can't just ask a technical writer to develop a website that is easy to use. So, I was saying that you need an engineer. Now, I would like to talk more specifically about how I support writers as an engineer. First of all, the role of an engineer. From my point of view, there are two types of users. The first type of user, as mentioned earlier, is the external developer who is looking at the developer side. I'm trying to provide an easy-to-use site for those users. The second type of user is the technical writer. in the team. From my point of view, the reason why technical writers are my user is because they write the documents, check their appearance, and release them. In order to do this kind of work, we need a platform that allows them to work smoothly. I develop and provide that platform, so from my point of view, the writers are the users of the platform. And then there's the day-to-day support of the writers, which I will talk about later. The first thing you need to do is to install the platform on your local machine, on your local computer, in your local environment. Local setup is required. For the line developer side, this is very easy to do. It's a bit of a simplified procedure. Download the source code called git clone, install the package using npm installation, and then hit the run script. And you'll be able to install the environment on your local host like this. You can set up the website in a local environment. You can check how it appears. And also you have to do the Markdown writing. You can really see how it looks on your local machine. I'd like to talk more about Markdown. As you probably know, Markdown can be used to achieve simple document formatting. For example, you can do basic formatting such as headers, simple tables, bullet points, etc. However, I will explain what to do if the basic Markdown functionality is not enough. As mentioned earlier, we use VuePress on the developer side. This is important because VuePress supports Markdown. And there are other reasons why we accepted it. For instance, to support multiple languages. I am personally happy that VuePress is written using Vue.js, and we use Vue.js a lot in our company, so it's great. And when rendering, it creates a SPA or single-page application site, so it's crisp and fast. The next one is very important. Markdown components can be extended with Vue.js components. I'm going to say this once more because it is so important. You can extend Markdown functionality with Vue.js component. This is a very interesting area, and I'd like to talk about it more detail now. I'm going to give you two examples of extending Markdown. The first example will be an API reference. This is again a section of the API reference for the Messages API. This UI alone contains several components that cannot be achieved with just basic Markdowns. For instance, there is a 2-column layout, a parameter formatting tables, and a sample tab UI. And what kind of Markdown is there after this UI? As you can see, it's a Markdown component, but there are some Vue.js components inside. For instance, there is a reference code that realizes a 2-column and a reference content component that contains the document on the left. Also, the code sample on the right side is a reference code, and there is also a component called tab that implements the tab UI. And last but not least, there is a parameter cable that can format the parameters of the message endpoint. There are just a few examples. These are just a few of the many custom components we have created. There are a lot of components, but each component doesn't really do anything more complicated, just about formatting. Yes, so we'd like to go on to the next sample, which is a bit more complex Markdown content example. The next one is a messaging API sticker. As you know, Line Messenger allows you to send stickers in Line Messages. Similarly, if you develop a chatbot using Messaging API, you can also send stickers from the chatbot. For instance, if you want to send brown stickers for example, from the chatbot, you have to specify the ID of the speaker. For instance, if you want to send a sticker for the package ID and sticker ID, you need to specify the ID as such. If we want to send the brown sticker, the chatbot developer must find that ID. And in the past, this way, we used to provide PDF files. And in the PDF, there is a list of stickers. And in fact, there are many problems associated with this. First of all, chatbot developers had to download the PDF and look for the ID. And there were various PGs in the PDF, so it was a little difficult to use and find. Also, from the provider's point of view, it's not so good to update the PDF files frequently, so we decided that it will be better to publish a sticker list on the website instead of PDF. Then I improved the page like this and gave a sticker list on this page. And the sticker UI, I am going to explain how I could achieve the sticker UI on the page. First of all, we had to find a list of IDs of the stickers that could be used with the message API. Next, we had to collect the image data associated with each ID. And after collecting this data, we developed the front end to create this UI. So, in the data collection stage alone, we changed various scripts and developed various things. But in terms of UI development, just the UI code that's been moved over here. This is the amount of front-end source code that we have, and it's quite a large Vue.js component. I have been developing various things. But how is this related to technical writers and Markdown extension? The writers write Markdowns, and the left-hand side shows complex source code. From writer's point of view, how can they use the source code? It's very easy. This is just one single line of code. If the writer writes that line of code, we'll be able to show such a rich UI. And we really worked hard on the development, so it's just a simple code from the writer and can show the rich UI simply. And I have worked really hard to develop, and I have provided various platforms. And so far, without me, probably if we asked other development team, they could develop such a platform. But not just that, but since I am in the same team and I am on their side, there are some advantages that I'd like to introduce now. And there is a day-to-day support, but as mentioned earlier, there are many different environments. If you get stuck in environment, if the Sandbox doesn't update, if there's a problem with the local host, I'm right here to support them. And by working together, I can understand the needs of technical writers. And if you're not sure whether the Sandbox build was successful, or if you're worried about broken links, or if they have such an issue, as mentioned earlier, I can introduce pull request check, as mentioned earlier. And since I am aware of these needs, I can propose and implement these functions myself. And when we release a document, if it doesn't look the way you imagined, or if it doesn't work, or Jenkins doesn't work, if you cannot update it, if you can release it, I can always help them right away. And if your company server becomes unavailable, or there is a software update or a new version of Vue.js, I can take care of the systems issues myself. This way, writers don't have to worry about the system or the people around them, and they can focus on writing with peace of mind. And writers often receive urgent requests. For instance, they suddenly need to update this document. They say, I suddenly need to publish this news. If the technical writer says, I want to publish this news, but there's no UI component, then I can always support them and can develop a UI template to support them. In this case, I think it's hard to do if you're not close by or on the same team. For instance, if you ask another team or another department to do, I think it will be delayed. And taking about engineers a little more, I personally benefit from being on a writing team. I enjoy working with writers, not simply with other engineers, because I get a different perspective and stimulation from working with them. And since I am supporting external users and writers, I feel a lot of responsibility, which makes my job more rewarding. In the end, I am the only engineer on the technical writer team, so I can work freely, and I personally like that. Yes, that's it for the engineer. Now, Ms. Horikoshi, could you give us one more summary? Okay, last but not least, I would like to summarize what we have talked about today. To make a product usable, good documents are very important. And if you have an in-house technical writing team, the documentation quality will also be higher. Developers can also focus on development, and there are many other benefits. And then when you are building the team, I would recommend that you include engineer in the technical writing team as well. This concludes 3 summaries what we have been sharing in the session on the team of technical writers. If after listening to today's talk, if you are interested in learning more about technical writing or are interested in an engineering position working with technical writers, I'm always open to casual meeting with myself and Roman. Please feel free to contact us. We also continue to talk about technical writing at the monthly Line Technical Meetups. If you're interested in technical writing itself, we hope you will join us for this meetup as well. This concludes the session on the team of technical writing experts behind Line's developer documentation. Thank you very much for joining us.